Baltimore, Buffalo. Game is basically one every direction you look at from open to close. Nobody has any idea. If you have an opinion, take it here. But let's start with the game first, and then we can get into some props. Buffalo, Baltimore.
So I have an opinion. I love the Ravens here. I think that this line has moved toward Baltimore being a favorite as I expected. And look, I just think the Bills have been really great offensively for the season, but the Ravens are even better. They're the only offense that's even better than the Bills. Baltimore's defense has been better. Number 2 by DVOA since week 9. The Bills can barely get off the field against Bo Nix in the last round. Baltimore's defense looking much better. They have the better run game. They're a better passing team right now. They have the better coaches. They're even better at special teams. The one weakness Baltimore is supposed to have, Buffalo's special teams have been even worse so far. So again here, I think weirdly, the two Sunday games sort of mirror each other in a way that you might not expect, because I think Buffalo's defense is a bad matchup for them against a power rushing attack. The Bills are not great covering middle of the field. Their linebackers, their safeties have not been great this year. And I think that's a bad matchup against the Ravens. The Bills, you look at run fits, the Bills prefer to run inside when they have the ball. That's where Baltimore's run D is best. Defensively, the Bills want you to run outside. That's where they're really good with their speed. They're not so good against power run up the middle. Well, hello, welcome to the Ravens. So Ravens this season had an explosive play. That's 10 yards or more, 25% of their plays. That's number 1 in the NFL. Guess who was worst in the NFL defensively explosive plays? The Buffalo Bills were. 10 plus or more yards on 24% of their plays. That played out in week 4. First play of the game for Baltimore. Derrick Henry, 87 yards to the house. Finishes with 200 yards almost, 35-10. In that matchup, Baltimore had 14 plays of 10 or more yards. Buffalo had 4. That's a really good way to lose fast, so just giving up chunks of yards down the field. If you look at the defense, Buffalo is 3-3 against playoff teams. When they face a top 12 opponent, they've allowed 30 points a game in 6 games there. Buffalo against top running offenses, like we just did in the other game with the Rams. 5 games, they've allowed against top 11 run offenses 20, 28, 35, 42, and 44 points in those games. That's their 4 worst defensive games of the season. That's a shootout with the Cardinals back in the opener, James Conner. That's a 48-42 with the Lions, 42-44 with the Rams, and obviously this Ravens game. So I think it's just the wrong game for the Bills defense. Worse early in the game. We know how good the Ravens are early to get out early. The Ravens offense has been pretty battle tested. Here's the thing for me. I think people are going to make this the MVP narrative game because it's Lamar and it's Josh Allen, and everyone's going to say whoever wins, that should be the MVP. I think that whole conversation is backwards. Let me say this clearly. Baltimore won't win because they have the MVP. Baltimore is going to win because they don't have the MVP. The Ravens have 9 Pro Bowlers. The Bills have 2. They had 2 last year. Josh Allen is the MVP because he's so important and has to do everything for this team. The Ravens are good at all the things. They run, they pass, they defend. They have all the coaches and the special teams. Baltimore is the better team all around. The Bills only win if Josh Allen is just that much better than Lamar Jackson, because that's the only real edge they can have here. Being the MVP is not a compliment to your team. It is a fact that the team is not good enough, so you have to be that valuable. I think the Bills lose because Josh was that valuable to them this year. So, Ravens -1. I will also play Ravens -6.5, plus 215. All 8 wins they had against playoff teams this year, but were by 7 or more points. And I will nibble 35 Baltimore points at plus 390. They did it last time against Buffalo. They've done it 6 other times. I know it's the game of the week. I know it's the one we're waiting for. I think it's a bad matchup for Buffalo. I think Baltimore is the better team, and that's why they win, not because of the quarterback.
Josh is more important to his team. Lamar had the better season. With that, you can figure out how you want what the award means. But to me, that's the situation. I'll give you one stat and then I'll toss it back to you. Lamar opened as an underdog in this game, plus 1.5. Now sitting at -1.5. When he opens as an underdog, forgetting the situation, he is 17-3 against spread in his career, including 19-1 in a 6-point teaser. So Usually the right angle. But we will see what happens there. I'll toss it back to you. You like one prop, and then I'll get us out of here.
Yeah, last prop here for this game. Now, like, if you want to just do the Derrick Henry prop we've been doing, 100 yards and 2 scores, this week add the win in since the line is close. That's plus 480. I don't mind that one. He's still doing it in over a quarter. The Baltimore wins. If you like the Ravens, well, he did that against the Bills earlier this season, so I don't mind that. I'm going to play the other Baltimore running back, Justice Hill. I'm going to do a little bit of an Austin Eckler here. I like Justice Hill as a receiver in this one. Last week, we tried to fade the Bills as a receiving running back. Javonte Williams didn't do anything for me. Going back to the well, Buffalo allows top 2 most receptions and yards and touchdowns to running back. 42 yards a game receiving to running backs. They're not good short. They're not good over middle of the field. If you look at Justice Hill, last game against Buffalo this season, that was his best game of the season. 6 catches, 78 yards, and a score. He only actually played 20 snaps in that game. So it's not like that was a script thing. Oh, yeah, well, they were behind all game, so they had the receiving back out. No. They were way ahead all game. He was barely on the field, but when he was on the field, he was just carving up this Buffalo defense. So here's what's interesting with Justice Hill. He's had 3 catches or more 8 times this season. He scored a touchdown 4 of those 8 games. So when he's getting some volume, he's kind of actually doing some damage because, yeah, Baltimore is really good. Everyone does some damage. He's averaging 42 yards a game when he gets those 3 catches. So I kind of like this also with the Baltimore play because there's a little bit of a negative Baltimore script. If the Ravens aren't as good as I think and they're behind, I like this even better here. I like it anyways, but I think it gives me a little bit of protection in case I'm wrong about Ravens. Justice Hill has had 4 catches or more 6 times. 3 of those 6 times have been in losses. So if I'm wrong about Baltimore, I could be right here even more so. So Justice Hill over 20.5 receiving yards. That's the main bet. And I like the over 20.5 with the touchdown is 8-1. That's one last quick slip for you on the Justice Hill prop there. Get him in. Let's get him in for 25 yards and a touchdown. Let's get the big Baltimore win to wrap the weekend. And then we'll come back here Sunday night and wrap everything up and do it again.
Yeah, I like that Justice Hill prop because it also doesn't matter about the script of the game mostly. And if they're trailing and you're wrong and they come back, you end up possibly hitting both. That's why that 8-1 is pretty interesting. One stat I will give you here before we move into the end, and I thought this is just, it kind of worked towards your Ravens team total bet, but when opponents score 21 points or more against the Bills, Buffalo just 4-22. 4-22 against the spread since 2022. Worst mark in the NFL. So, I mean, at that point, you could get into a shootout here, and the spread pretty much means nothing in this game. And I'm guessing a lot of those numbers are a little large in that stat, but it just tells to Buffalo's defense. So we will see how it goes. We're both on Baltimore, and we've even given you some ways to play Buffalo in this game.